It's getting down to 10 games left in the regular season. And in the West, guys are trying to get healthy. In the East, it's seeding and positioning. Mark Medina has been covering the NBA for a long time. Lakers, Warriors, now national guy, NBA.com. He's outstanding. We bring him on all the time. So let's start. The news on LeBron. You just talked recently to Rich Paul. You get a little timeline. So I would think, LeBron is such a pro. You could probably just plop him into the lineup. But it is interesting now that Austin Reaves is so good running the offense.
Yeah.
So he's okay off the ball. He's not Westbrook, but what are they going to do? So first of all, your guess on when LeBron comes back.
Well, it's anyone's guess right now. But what's interesting, Colin, is when I asked, okay, what's the optimism level about LeBron James coming back at some point in the regular season, I was told the word isn't optimism, it's hope. Now, what does that mean? It might be semantics, but there's no timeline. There's no guarantee that he's going to come back. LeBron has been, working diligently, but the reality is he was just doing spot shooting. He just got cleared for non-contact work. So how long will there be a ramp up before doing full contact and then a ramp up before coming back for the regular season? As you mentioned, 9 games left, not a lot of time. I would also pay attention to the standings themselves. LeBron is going to do everything he can to come back. But if the Lakers wind up in a situation where it's clear they're out of the play-in tournament, there's no benefit for LeBron to come back. And it's no benefit for the Lakers for him to come back because it's about making sure he's healthy for next season. But no doubt if the Lakers are still in that play-in picture, playoff picture, he'll do what he can to come back, but he also has to be fair to just how his body responds with everything.
Got to give the Lakers credit. There are very few NBA stories of undrafted players being productive. Now, this could be a Jeremy Lin thing where he's got 3 weeks where he's a star, but it does look like offensively he's got length, he can shoot, he's an excellent passer. So when you look at Austin Reaves, is your takeaway basically, I think it's a rare diamond in the rough. I think going forward, he's going to be a part of this thing, right?
Oh, he's the real player. For all the criticisms or praises about the Lakers front office in recent years, they have hit on draft picks. Their scouting department is amazing. I mean, you look at some of the young guys in the league, a Brandon Ingram, a Julius Randle, D'Angelo Russell coming back. Austin Reaves is very much a real player, almost like how Alex Caruso was. He can fit a lot of boxes, provides a lot of energy, is a great role player, but he's more than just a scrappy guy.
No, he's productive.
He can shoot, he can defend, he can play make. He's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid of anything. And so I think that there will be questions if LeBron comes back. What does the rotation look like?
Yeah.
But as far as chemistry with Austin Reaves, he's going to be amazing regardless of the role. Bench or starter. The question that you raise, okay, the future, I think the Lakers want to keep him. He's going to be a restricted free agent. So I would be surprised if we're talking about all this and it just winds up becoming part of a tribute video next season.
Right.
But we'll have to wait and see. All it takes is one team to just spend a lot of money. And then
the truth is with LeBron James, if you want to get him down to 26 minutes a night next year, first guy off the bench is Austin Reaves to run the offense. I mean, I think he's a very effective passer.
Yeah, and I think philosophically, you look at the trade deadline moves. Maybe they could have done these kind of moves at the beginning of the season, right? Maybe not the same deal, but just the idea of see what you can get out of a Russell Westbrook deal, fulfill positional needs. But I think because of what this core group of players have done with D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley, providing a lot better offense and shooting in particular, I think it's of the Lakers' mind that they want to bring this core back next season to build off of that continuity with training camp. And, look, you never rule anything out because free agency is always unpredictable.
I'll say this. These role guys are willing defenders.
Yeah. And I think that as opposed to, hey, let's try to get into the Kyrie Irving sweepstakes, I think they're better off building off of this core and retaining these guys.
All right, Paul George's injury. Yesterday, the moment of the show of real clarity, he was dogging playoff P, and I said, I don't think he's that bad. He's actually a better player in some instances in the playoffs. He doesn't shoot as well, but either does Steph Curry. This is a weird organization. Nonverbal Kawhi doesn't play back-to-backs. Paul's hurt. Do you think Steve Ballmer's frustrated with it? Now, it's very early in the process, right? It took a while for Steph Curry to hit. Like, Boston still doesn't have a title. So it's easy to just say they were going to win championships. Do you think inside the building, Steve Ballmer is frustrated a little bit with how this has transpired?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, just think of the first season with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the bubble, and they, blew that 3-1 series lead against Denver. What happened afterwards? Steve Ballmer made a coaching change.
Yeah.
Where Doc Rivers was let go and Ty Lue was promoted. No doubt he bought this organization with the expectation to win championships. He wants to win championships at Crypto.com Arena before going into the Intuit Dome, right? Yeah. But as far as what that means in the offseason, I think it's about still having the core in place for next season. But the reality is the moment that they signed or acquired Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, it was championship or bust. And I think when you're looking at this season, there's been a familiar refrain of, okay, we're dealing with overlapping injuries. It's about the long game and getting them healthy. And you wonder, okay, at what point does chemistry and continuity matter? And they acknowledge that that is an issue. But I think to this day, they're still leaning on the fact that that was a bigger issue the first season. Now there's relatively more continuity because they've had it more games together. The problem is they're all displaced. Yeah. There's not enough of a continuous sample size because of all those overlapping injuries. And the last point I would make here, Colin, is, I know Ty Lue has said over this season when I've asked him about the challenges of this season, he said that this has been the most challenging. And you would wonder, well, last season Kawhi was out for the entire season, but that at least gave him clarity of he knows what he's getting on a night-to-night basis as far as rotations and expectations. And here, it's been a guessing game about who's going to be healthy or not.
So Trae Young and Luka complain more about the officials than anybody in the league. Trae Young went public this week. I don't think refs should have to be held accountable. It should be noted Trae Young doesn't play a lick of D, and Luka's not good at it, so they don't get any wins on the defensive end. So their offensive game is their game. And so whereas a Draymond Green doesn't complain about the officials because he can often manipulate them and win on the defensive end, right? So your takeaway, I don't want to be an old guy because I remember Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan never fouled anybody. They constantly complain with the officials. I do wonder, though, when it goes public, you're watching Luka do this stuff where you're getting paid off. Adam Silver's a nice guy. Is he too lenient on the constant chirping at officials?
Yeah, well, first of all, expect Luka Doncic to get fined, maybe even suspended for that gesture. I mean, the league does not take kindly to when there's insinuations, whether you're serious or not, that the games are rigged. Like, that doesn't sit well. But I think to the larger question, there's been a lot of turbulence this season, I think even in the last 3 years, where there's been a lot of inconsistency across the board as far as, what's considered a foul, not a foul, how much contact is allowed, isn't, as well as what is acceptable decorum as far as the dynamic in conversations with players and officials. But I think at the same token, there's been a lot of outrageous demonstrative behavior like Luka's gesture that goes unignored. So because of all that inconsistency, there's just all this volatility and weird mess that I think both sides need to clean up.
It's really interesting. I've always compared the NBA to international soccer. And if you watch international soccer, the level of disrespect for officiating is outrageous. And I do think when you have a star-driven sport, in the NFL, you just don't do it, right? It's the shield, it's the coach. In the NBA and international soccer, that individual player is so valuable to winning that they're empowered. And I think sometimes I watch these NBA guys, I'm like, you guys are starting to look like Ronaldo. but to the NBA player, he's like, I'm driving the league and I get it. I want to talk about KD, not available now, will come back, hurt in a layup line. It's interesting. I look at that, and Jaylen Brown the other day is like, I hope I'm here. I know Jason Tatum and KD are here. When you talk about KD going forward, Chris Paul's not had a good year. He has aged very quickly. Do you buy Phoenix as a viable championship team?
Well, you never discount them if they have a healthy Kevin Durant, but that's the ultimate question. Not only can Kevin Durant stay healthy, can Chris Paul stay healthy? Can Devin Booker? Can DeAndre Ayton? They've all had overlapping injuries. And I talked with Chris Paul earlier this week, and, look, he's a vet. He's doing all the right things to maximize health. He's made it clear to me he has no retirement plans. He has 2 years left on his contract. But he also admitted those goals partly will be based on if he can stay healthy or not. And, when I asked him how he reads this season, he's like, well, could be a lot worse. That's not really a sign of confidence.
Right.
He does give credit to himself as well as his teammates of handling the set of cards as far as the overlapping injuries. He mentioned with Kevin Durant, the underrated quality beyond his star power is he's easy to play with. There's not really an adjustment period.
The easiest guy in the league.
As far as dynamics. Chris Paul said to me that he thinks he's easy to play with. And you think, oh, well, really demanding personality. But from an X's and O's standpoint, he is a great point guard, knows when to dish, knows when to score. So there are those elements there that can be there for a championship run. But if you're not healthy, I'm sorry, like the title shots are doomed there, but we'll have to wait and see.
I've said this. Milwaukee's the best team in the league. Philly and Boston are really, really good. I know since December, the Sixers have been great. They're in the Bay Area tonight to take on the Warriors. It's a much bigger game for the Warriors. Andrew Wiggins, I was told, would not play for the rest of the season. That was regular season. We don't know their playoffs. I don't think you can win without Wiggins because, first of all, the scoring's lopsided. They only score in the backcourt, no front court scoring. Secondly, Kuminga's not ready to play 30 minutes a night in the playoffs. What do you make of this Warriors team if Wiggins does not come back because of a personal situation?
Yeah, look, you never bet against Steph Curry. He's shown that he can still play at his absolute peak, and he has not shown signs of slowing down, even if, there's injuries. But when he's on the court, he has been absolute Steph Curry. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee anything for the Warriors. He played that way 2 years ago, post-bubble season, and they didn't win the play-in game against Memphis. Now, better team. Draymond has been playing really well. Clay's back. He's looking like a little bit of pre-injury from an offensive standpoint. But defensively, they have not been consistent. Nice road win against Dallas, but they haven't been consistent on the road either. And I think defensively here, I think Draymond's played really well. But the problem is, even if he can play all five positions, he can't do that all at once. I think he would admit, some of his leadership capital obviously took a hit with the Jordan Poole punch.
Yes.
But I think that post that, he's done the right things as far as how he's played, how he's tried to navigate there.
I think he's had a very good year.
Yeah, but the reality is they're not consistent defensively, even with that, even with Kevon Looney. With Andrew Wiggins, not only do you lose that scoring punch, but he was providing the defense that Klay Thompson used to provide before his injury.
You can put him on a Jason Tatum.
Yeah, and I was talking to Klay before the season. He was like, I'm very grateful to have Wiggs with me because he can take care of the top players that you mentioned. And so the reality is when you add in the fact that we don't know if Andre Iguodala is going to come back, who knows how good this team can be defensively. Maybe some silver lining that Gary Payton II cleared for Saturday's practice, could play Sunday against Minnesota, but great defensive player, especially point of attack on the perimeter, but they need a lot more reinforcements starting with Wiggins.
Yeah, they can win at home because on home they play with an energy, but on the road, that's where defense matters. That's why the Celtics are generally a good road team. The Bucks are a good road team. Defense travels.
Yeah.
You don't shoot as well on the road. The defense travels, and I think that's what you've seen this year. They're in every time they go on the road, they're in these wild shootouts, and you just can't win on the road consistently like that. Mark Medina is always fantastic. What's your Twitter account?
MarkG_Medina.
God, that sounds like that's really good. I want to change mine. MarkG_Medina. That has an alliteration to it that's very strong. Good seeing you, buddy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.